Hey everybody! I'm super excited to be joining you all for the Mindset Masterclass today. I'm going to start tagging some of you in, and we have an exciting guest with us today, Elizabeth Ann Walker, who is my coach, and she is probably the biggest expert I know as far as things are concerned with mindset. So as you are tagged in, as you start to join us, please can you comment and say hi? And I will invite Liz on right now as soon as I can see her. Hey Emma, how you doing? As soon as you're here, Liz, let me know and I will bring you on camera. In the meantime, say hi. What are you up to today, Emma? Are you seeing clients today? I'm super keen to hear how you're going. There is Liz. All right, Liz, can you come on and let's find you in the list. There you are. So, and then we will start chatting. Yay.
Yay!
Woo! Yay! How are you? Oh, my face.
I am great. How are you?
I'm awesome. So awesome. I'm super
Hi, everyone.
and this is so exciting for this group. We haven't had someone like you in before ever, Liz. So, it's really super important that you all make sure you ask lots and lots of questions today. And make sure you've got a pen and paper ready because you're going to get heaps of value. So you're going to need to write lots of things down. So if you haven't already got one, run and grab a pen and paper because we're going to get started in just a moment.
How exciting. I'm really excited to be here. But yes, definitely pen and paper because if you ask me to repeat something, I usually don't do that. I just say it, it comes through. And if you write it down as we're going, that's the best way to approach this whole session.
Absolutely.
Yay!
So before we get started, I want to introduce Liz. Elizabeth Ann Walker is an amazing coach. She taught me NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, a whole bunch of amazing qualifications that I can now say have added immense value to not only myself, but also to all of my clients who I serve. And those of you who already work with me can attest to that. And we have the wonderful Liz, who has taught me integrated NLP and taught many of my friends also. And she's spoken on stages with people like Tony Robbins, DeMartini, Les Brown, which I don't know if they'll know who Les Brown is, but it's all very, very exciting. Lots of famous people Liz has spoken with, particularly Tony Robbins.
Richard Branson, Lisa Nichols, Brene Brown.
So many amazing people. So it's very exciting to have you here today, Liz. Thank you for taking the time out to be here with myself and all these wonderful people.
Yay! Hi, everyone. So the best way to get more out of me is more comments and love hearts. I love the love hearts on the screen. So the more that you comment, the more questions you ask, the more you'll get out of me. And I am really excited to be here. Amy has been one of my favorite students to teach. And I say that with hand on heart because she's actually implemented everything. She's gone ahead and integrated it. She's embodied it and she's implemented it. And that's how she's able to serve you guys today, which is great. So I'm very excited to be part of her group and I'm excited to serve you guys. And when Amy was in our training, she asked the right questions. And the way to get the most out of anything is ask the right questions. Now, is there a wrong question? In my world, there's no wrong questions. There's only right questions. Because the worst that can happen is you get an answer that you don't like. That's the only thing that can go wrong when you ask a question, right? So that's the deal. The more that you comment, the more questions you ask, the more you'll get out of me. So I have no idea what I'm here to talk about today. And that's the way I prefer to do all of my interviews. Whenever I'm interviewed or I'm on someone else's live, people go, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, don't you want to ask? I'm like, no, because if I ask, then I pre-plan it. And if I pre-plan it, I'll judge myself on whether what I'm saying is good enough. I'll judge myself on whether what I'm saying is appropriate. Whereas if I just come in and I wing it, what happens is I speak directly from my heart through my throat chakra to you guys. and you actually get the real deal.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what we're exploring today, but I'm sure Amy's going to let us know.
Oh, I will. So it's a very broad topic of mindset, and
Cool.
I love chatting mindset, Liz. And I know that everybody in here could do with some mindset reframes right now, knowing that many of them are either in lockdown or have been in lockdown for extended periods of time. And there's been a lot of ebbing and flowing through their businesses and through their personal lives. So I'm wondering, what's a great reframe that someone could do for lockdown?
Okay, cool. So am I going to go directly on lockdown? No, I'm the rabbit hole queen. So let's go down a rabbit hole. The issue with lockdown for most people is fear. They're fearful of not having their freedom. They're fearful of getting the vaccination. They're fearful of not getting the vaccination. They're fearful of the new quarantine camps that are being built. They're fearful based on the past. And when you look at like I spoke to someone this morning who's really petrified about these quarantine camps. And if you haven't heard about that, it's all been, a lot of it's been announced in the last 24 hours. And, you know, she's saying, you know, I remember my grandparents talking about concentration camps, and that just feels the same. And part of the reason why this is so stressful for people right now is we carry the burdens of past generations. We carry them energetically, and we carry them in the way that we think, because our grandparents told stories, our parents told stories, and we've told stories. And those stories create what's called a personal metaphor. So it's the way that we conduct ourselves through a personal metaphor. And if that personal metaphor looks like, this is dangerous, this is what's good, this is what's bad, then we will create our world according to that metaphor. So if we've had grandparents, for example, who are in concentration camps, the concept of a quarantine camp being built around the corner from where you live is reminiscent, and it brings up in our energetics the energy that's been passed through our family from the time that the people that were in our family actually experienced that trauma. So it's old trauma. It's not actually present. It's not actually real. And when we focus on the old trauma, we get a seat with fear. And so fear creates a whole lot of hormones in your body, things like cortisol and adrenaline, because we're preparing for fight or flight when we're in fear. And so there's a lot of people feeling really tired, really exhausted, and not seeing the benefits. So first of all, before we reframe, I like to give some education on why, right? So the reframe for lockdown is we need the antidote for fear. And a lot of people think it's love, right? Because for a long time, people have said, what if instead of feeling fear, you feel love? It's not, it's excitement. It's actually excitement. When you're excited and you're like really pumped up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. I can't wait for something to happen. It's impossible with that energetics in your body, with that flow of chemicals in your body. It's actually impossible to feel fear while you're doing that. And so when people say, oh, I'm not really fearful, I'm just stressed, when you dig down and you chunk down, it ends up in fear. They're fearful of something, either no money from working, lack of seeing people, isolation from people, their kids are misbehaving, they're not going to school. They're like, it all ends up in fear. And if the antidote to fear is excitement, then the reframe has to be exciting.
Yes.
So I was recently speaking to a lady who her whole life has been focused on doing exit interviews from large corporate positions. So she asks people, you know, what happens when they leave, what happens? And so she's basically a change facilitator. And her take on what's happening right now is that this is the age of disruption. So we've seen things coming in the beginning of this age, like things like Uber, things like Airbnb, things that have disrupted industries that have been solid for a long time. And now we've got this thing that they're labeling COVID, disrupting health, disrupting infrastructure, disrupting everything. And whilst our past experiences, and if we look to the past, all of those things feel like there's something bad, if we actually really analyze the past, it's actually great and good things come out of it. And yes, there is some fallout. So if we consider this, and I've spoken about this before on some of my channels and definitely in person with you, Amy, if we consider that this is currently a war, and up until yesterday, it hadn't been declared, but yesterday, Gladys Berejiklian in the New South Wales Premier actually said this is a war zone, or she declared that it was a war.
Yeah.
And a lot of people missed it because a lot of people don't focus on language. But being a linguist, I focus on language. So she's declared war yesterday. And that was the only thing missing according to the definition of what makes up a war. The only thing missing was a declaration. So now we have a declaration as well. And when we hear the word war, we go to trauma. We go to trauma of the past. And we think about things like death, death toll, losing people, families split apart, things like that. And this sounds all doom and gloom. What you forget to think about is the innovation of war. Mm. Every single war has created innovation and excitement and more jobs and greater technology and a new way of living. And every generation after a war considers themselves the lucky ones. And so whilst many, I'm assuming you have some parents in your group, Amy.
Yes.
Whilst many of you may be parenting children and thinking, what's going to happen for the future for my children? The one thing that is proven time and time again when things like this happen is that great things come after a war. Great things come after a war. Revolutions come after a war. And this is not the old style war. And so we might be thinking about people dying. And I know in New South Wales, they had, I think, 7 deaths overnight. Of those, I think 6 of them, like other than one, they were all quite elderly. And the young person had a series of comorbidities. So they had other things wrong with them that led them to their demise. They just happened to have COVID at the time of death. So we hear these statistics and go, oh my God, but people are dying. And the reason it feels so bad is because of that attachment to the ancestral stuff from the wars that we've been through. In fact, the generation that's living now is the only, like our generation, we're the only ones who haven't been through a war. So I was born in 1973. I think that's roughly when, I don't even know when the Vietnam War was, so I'm going to show my ignorance here, but it was around that time. So we haven't lived through a war. And our children haven't lived through a war. And now we are. And what's really great about that is it creates resilience. It creates strength of character. It creates a need, not just a desire, but a need to do things differently, which brings in itself innovation. And when we consider that, it's exciting. These times are exciting times. There's things that we've never seen before happening right now. And it's all about the direction from which you look at it. And I can do a quick exercise with you all now. If you imagine yourself sitting in the seat that you're sitting in right now, and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling a little bit, disconcerted with what's going on, and you're feeling a bit unsure, you've got a lot of uncertainty. What I want you to do is I want you to imagine yourself floating up and out of your body and moving to another chair that you may or may not be able to see, that's just off to the right-hand side of you. And in that chair, I want you to look at what your life looks like in 100 years. So we're not going to play in reality. We're going to play outside of reality. What does your life look like from that chair? And when you're looking back from that chair at you in this chair, worrying, and that chair is in 100 years' time, what does that version of you say to you right now? And when I do that, that version of me is still excited. That version of me has seen progress. That version of me is telling the now me that it's going to be okay, that it's actually really great, that this will bring change that has been needed for a long time. And when we think about that, think about what's happening with schooling. The school curriculum was developed just before World War II. It hasn't changed. English, maths, and science, the basis of it has stayed the same for that long. That's over 50 years. Half a century with no change. This has brought change to the way that schooling occurs. I personally know 10 people who have decided to homeschool their children this year. And I think that's really exciting. Yeah. Like it's really exciting. I homeschooled my children for 2 years. It was great. So imagine you've got that chair. And then I want you to imagine another chair. And the other chair is off to your left. Yeah? Yeah, exactly, Sam. Don't lose sight of the big picture. So keep the big picture in mind. The other chair's off to the left. And that chair is you in 50 years. Just 50. So for me, I'd be 97, 98 I'd be. And I sit in that chair and I also feel excitement and I feel great joy for what we're creating right now. And I encourage you to look at those positions. So rather than just looking from where you're at, because we all know that in the past, when we've experienced trauma, when we've looked at it from where we're at, it seems really bad. Yet a year later, 2 years later, 20 years later, depending on the level of trauma, it was okay. Like I have a memory of when I pushed my brother out of my bedroom and he hit his head on an old Singer sewing machine. That shows how old I am. Some of you won't know what that was, but it's a big box and it had metal in it. And I pushed him out of my room and he cracked his head open. And my mum raced him up to the doctor and I had to walk to school because she couldn't wait for me to get ready. So I had to walk to school. And as I walked to school, I went into the doctor's surgery because it was on the way. And I said, "Is he okay?" And my mother said, "Get out and go to school." And I remember walking to school feeling as though I would never be loved again, that I'd hurt my brother so badly that I would be, exiled from the family, that I'd never be loved again. But by the time I got home from school 8 hours later, everything was fine. And my brother had stitches in his head and he was like, that was cool. And it was all great, And I want you to think about past experiences where you've had this same feeling, because this is not a unique feeling. People are saying these are unprecedented times. The feelings are not unprecedented, though. We've had these feelings before. We've had these ideas and thoughts before. And if you move away from now and out in the future just a little bit and you look back, I think you'll find that you feel really safe and that you feel as though this is all going to be okay. Is that a good enough reframe for you?
Incredible. Incredible. I love your reframes. And I'm wondering also how that can apply to someone who allows these feelings to rule what is actually happening in their everyday life. That, they know there's things that are required of them in their business and in their personal life. And there's all of this haze with all the things, yet they choose to procrastinate, or they're like in the feeling, which they feel is a big barrier. So could you also use that method to overcome procrastination?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. What do you look like in 10 minutes when you've completed a task? And what would that person say to the you that's procrastinating now?
Yeah.
Are they looking at you going, "What are you doing? You're going to do it eventually. You may as well just do it now."
Yeah.
Like, what are you waiting for? You're just going to beat yourself up tonight when you go to bed. Would you like to do that? Or would you prefer to actually do the task now? And when the feelings are becoming overwhelming, because I think that's what you described, is that sense of overwhelm. When the feelings are becoming overwhelming, one of the ways that I like to look at it is through a metaphor that Milton Erickson once told. He was walking down his street and he walked past an old boiler factory. And most of you don't know what a boiler is, but it's this big metal, massive metal thing that would take up the size of a massive lounge room these days. And they were made of steel and they were riveted together. And so inside the factory was a lot of noise, lots and lots of noise. And Milton Erickson was an interesting man. And so he walked into this factory one day to see what was causing the noise. And he saw lots of workers and people hammering and welding and, using sort of air guns to go to put bolts in. And it was noisy and it was hot. And he looked around and he couldn't hear a thing. He couldn't hear a thing because it was just so noisy. But he noticed that the workers were talking to each other. And he noticed that they were being productive despite all the noise. And he noticed that he himself was distracted. And he loved to work on his mindset. So what he did was he went and asked the boss, whether he could spend the night in the boiler factory just observing. And obviously in those days, there wasn't work health and safety, and, you know, you didn't have to wear a hard hat or anything. So the boss said yes, and he went home and he got his pillow and his blanket, and he came back to the boiler factory, and the same thing again, just so noisy, so much noise, right? And he couldn't work out how these people could be speaking, let alone communicating in an effective way to get their job done with all that noise. And so he took his pillow and his blanket and he went round the corner, just so he was sort of out of the way. So as people were walking backwards and forwards, he wasn't in the way. And he lay down. And the next morning he reported that after about an hour, he was able to quieten his mind to the point where there was no noise at all. To the point where he could hear the people talking and the noise didn't bother his brain at all. And I wonder what would happen if, when you are feeling those feelings of overwhelm like he was with all the noise, whether you just took 5 minutes and allowed yourself to quieten your mind. What would that do for you, and how would that make you feel? And then would it be okay to take action after that? What Erickson did with that is he realized that when people were learning, they were a little bit like a boiler. A boiler, the water boils and the steam fills up and the boiler feels full. But he notices that at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the boilers all turned off and started to cool down. And when they cooled down, there was all this extra space. All this extra space. That's what I like about Milton Erickson.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Incredible. And so those who create the space and then take the action, then what's available to them then? This is the thing.
Oh my goodness. The world is your oyster. When you take action, the world's your oyster. So for example, when I first did NLP, I took action straight away and I made $35,000 in 6 weeks. And at the time I was working as a nurse. So for me, that was like half my salary in 6 weeks. And I was like, whoa, all I did was help people. All I did was help people. That's what I was doing as a nurse as well.
Yeah.
And did I work hard? Yeah, I worked really hard. I did work really hard. And could I have been happy with $10,000? Yeah, but as soon as I made $10,000, I realized that I was really good at what I was doing. And I was like, well, if I'm good at doing this, I want to actually do it. So rather than it being something that I had to try and see if I was good at, I realized that I wanted to do it because I was good at it. And I was good at it because I put the effort in.
Totally.
And the effort, like, these things are available to you when you decide to take that quiet time, reflect on yourself. Remember, I said 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be a whole day of going out to the forest to reconnect, right? You can take 5 minutes and actually really enter a state of calm. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself what happened a minute ago when I was telling that story and how calm you felt during that story. It's possible to do it in a few minutes. So as we begin to start taking action, we perpetuate in ourselves excitement again, that creates more action, and then excitement that creates more action. So when people say, oh, you work hard, I'm like, well, it's not hard for me anymore because I just do it.
Yeah. I
know how to do it. I know what I'm capable of and I achieve that. Whereas for some people look at my life and go, oh my God, you're so busy. I could never handle that. Well, yeah, I am busy. And I also have plenty of time. And that's what it's like to live the true version of yourself, is that you're busy and you have plenty of time. And when you love what you do, you can have anything. So if you can overcome that feeling of overwhelm just by being relaxed and taking 5 minutes out for yourself, then you can have whatever you want, be whoever you want, do whatever you want, give your kids whatever you want. And that's an exciting place to be in.
It sure is. It absolutely.
Yeah.
So Liz, can you talk to these beautiful people about being resourceful? Because there's this thing in the natural health world. Everyone loves a course. Everyone loves a course. So on average, I've done surveys in this group before. How many of you have courses that are unfinished and how many are there? And I think the record was 17 unfinished courses. They love.
Whoa.
And so can you speak to the resourcefulness part? I would love for you to be able to speak to.
Are we talking like unfinished online style courses?
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So everyone has all the resources they need, right? You already have them. And a course is not giving you information you need. A course is giving you a roadmap or an alternative way to utilize the information you have. So some of you believe that the course is the giver of information. The giver of information is your own mind and the programs that you've set. So if you're able to retain one lot of information, you're able to retain any lot of information. So it's not the course that gives you the resources. The course gives you the framework or the map. It's like a GPS. The thing with a GPS, though, is that you need to know where you're at in order to figure out how to get to where you're going. And if you only do half a course or you just start a course, then the GPS doesn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not going to get you to where you want to be because it doesn't know where you are in the first place. It's kind of like, oh, I thought we were doing the course. Oh, now we're not. Oh, just watch the birds fly by. And no one has a clue what's happening. The resources are already in you. The question is, are you willing to utilize the investments that you've made to find some of those maps, to put it together in your internal GPS? Because all of those courses are beneficial. Whether they are good or bad, whether you love them or hate them, they're beneficial. In a course that you hate, you will find out exactly how not to do it.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to make that mistake.
Yeah.
In a course that you love, you'll find out how to do it, and you'll also have some ideas about how it can be different from the way you expected to do it. And you get to create more choice by having more of a roadmap. So the resources are all there for you. When you pay for a course or you pay for a coach, you're paying for the roadmap, you're paying for the expertise, you're paying for the fact that they've done it before and it's going to be faster and quicker for you. So research shows that someone who has a coach that's done what they want to do. So we're not talking about coaches that haven't done what you want to do, but the ones that have done what you want to do, which is, I'm assuming why most of you are in Amy's group, is because she's done something that you want to do. When you work with someone like Amy as a coach, the research shows that you're 70% faster. 70% faster than the person who you coach with, because they help you to avoid the pitfalls, the mistakes, the thinking that, like what I call stinking thinking. They get you through that really quickly and really fast. And so you can go 70% faster. And when I think about that and what I've created, and I'm sure the same for you, Amy, like I know I created $1 million business in just over 12 months. And like for some of you, that seems incredible, but I know that Amy's going to do it. And I know that she'll do it really soon. And I know that because she's working with me.
Yeah.
So she has the resources already. I truly believe in that. I'm not giving her resources. I'm giving her a roadmap. I'm allowing her to see the next turn before it comes up on the map. And that puts her ahead of the game. And that's exactly how coaching and these courses work.
Absolutely. And it's not through a lack of resources, it's through not accessing your own resources. It's through
100%.
Yeah.
There's no such the lack of resources.
Yeah.
There's a lack of resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Right? So the resources are there. And, you know, I look at this plant, right? And I'll just show you. This little leaf here, it only unfurled this morning. For the last week, it's been in this tight little rolled up thing. And now today, it's a brand new leaf. And it's really soft and delicate as opposed to this one, which is structured and framed. But this leaf has the exact same resources as this one.
Yeah.
This one has been super resourceful and it's grown and it's taken nutrients from the soil and it's allowed itself to suck up the water. But this leaf is only learning, hence why, see how it's sort of floppy?
Yeah.
And it's soft. And it's only just realizing that it has those resources because it didn't need them when it was all curled up. But now that it's open, it needs them for the structure. right? And the same thing's happening for you guys on this call. You know, you hit the next inflection point and you suddenly realize that there's more resources available. It's the resourcefulness that you need to work out how to utilize those.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you've got it online sitting there, just finish it. It's, you know, it'll take you 20 minutes to do a module.
Yeah, totally.
Just schedule it in your diary. Go ahead and just do it.
Yeah. Do the thing. Be the person who does the thing. And then you're the person who does the thing. It can be that simple.
And then you'll have what you want to have.
That's it. That's it. So Liz, I'm going to start wrapping it up, and I'd really like you to speak to anyone who's more interested in what you do and how and what's coming up for you, because I know you've got some really exciting things that these people are really probably going to be able to access in a bigger way really soon.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So we've got loads of stuff coming up. We always do have loads of stuff.
I love that.
It's the advantage of being a bigger business, right? We have a big team, and so we have a lot available. But the main thing that I would encourage people to come along to, and the real change point, is NLP, our NLP practitioner course. So that's in October. It's from the 18th to the 24th of October. And it is a course that will change your life, because it changes not what you think, but how you think. So the way that you think is the only thing that's holding you back right now. I talked about that personal internal metaphor. Those are just thoughts and programs that you've accepted, that have been passed down to you from your ancestors, that have been passed down to you through the things that you've learned from society, from your parents, from partners. When you come to NLP practitioner, what you get to learn is how you created those thoughts, how you created those feelings, how you created those visuals, and you get to break it down and create it the way that you would if you had have chosen. If you had have consciously chosen all the programs you carry, there are some that you would not have chosen. And you didn't realize at the time because you were young, you had an unconscious mind just putting things in and filtering them for you without any understanding of how that worked. And what we do is you allow you to deconstruct that and create it the way you want it to move towards what you want. So rather than moving away from what you don't want, you get to move towards what you do want. So that's our NLP, our integrated NLP. It's a great course. It's what Amy's done. It's what many, many other great coaches have done. And it allows you the ability to choose how to think, rather than being at the whim of just, oh, that's just what happens for me. That's just how it goes for me. It gets you into a space where your thinking, your feeling, your visuals, your taste, your smell, and the talking you do to yourself are in a spectacular version of themselves, rather than just the one that you've probably labeled as good or all right or good enough. We want to move you further than that to spectacular.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do. Yeah.
Love it. And anyone,
and all you guys need to do is contact Amy.
Yeah.
You just contact Amy and she can put you in touch with me, and we do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see.
But I want to know, what do you all think? Where's all your comments? People?
Yeah, they're a quiet bunch today. They're probably all taking it in and being like, whoa.
It's different.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, it's really different, and it's different in all the best ways, because it's not just this content heavy, like, here, learn the strategy about how to do this thing. Because the thing about strategy is you already have the strategy. It's the mindset behind the strategy that's way more important.
100%. I can see they're just taking it in. They thought it was awesome. That's great.
Perfect.
So all you need to do, if you are interested in doing that, is get in touch with Amy. She'll put you in touch with me, and we'll get you sorted out that way.
Yeah, awesome. It has been amazing having you here, Liz. We'll have to get you back again, because it's so much fun with you. And
I'm definitely happy to do this. I find
my people and to speak with me. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks. It's been fun, and I will talk to you all soon. Remember, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all that's required. Yeah. Mwah. See ya.